Back to the Future for the MSX is certainly no masterpiece, but when you compare it to the NES version, it does come out looking somewhat better. And at least it doesn't have that other version's ear-raping music, or Marty throwing bowling balls for that matter. So anyway, let's get into it. Back to the Future for the MSX. Admittedly, the graphics aren't all that great. But then again, the game did come out back in 1986, so what do you expect? Marty McFly doesn't look a lot like his movie counterpart. However, considering the age of the game, it's not that bad. On the other hand, George and Lorraine McFly look horrible. George is green and Lorraine is purple? And there's these enemies. I don't know if they're cops or bullies, but they're totally blue? Did they fucking run out of colors, or were all the game programmers 4 years old? Oh yeah, and Biff is dark green and shoots a gun at you. They must have spliced his DNA with the Hulk and gave him his gun from the second movie. I think it would have been better if they made the other characters flesh-colored like Marty. But oh well. As for the Hill Valley background, it looks rather generic. Then again, I'm not sure what you could really do with it given the system limitations. Still, they could have made it look a little more like the 1950s. Hell, maybe add a few old-fashioned cars in the background or some people dressed in 1950s clothes. But nope, everybody looks like they came from fucking Candyland. I do think that the NES game's graphics are a little better than this. Yet despite that, I do think this game has better controls. Instead of being forced to move ahead, you can move back and forth of your own free will. The keypad allows you to move left and right, and the spacebar allows you to jump. Also, if you collect a shoe icon, you can do a high jump by pressing up and spacebar. The jumping, though, is a bit awkward. For example, when Marty reaches the high point of his jump, he can only go straight down, which means that you can't always move out of the way of enemies in time. I think it would have been better if you had been able to control Marty throughout the whole jump. Nevertheless, the jumping is better than the NES version. At least in this game, you don't fucking float around when you jump. Along with the controls, the gameplay is rather simple. You play as Marty McFly, obviously, and you have to reunite your mom and dad and get them to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance before time runs out. To make Marty's parents appear, you have to jump in front of certain windows. And once you reveal one parent, they'll follow you while you find the other. After you get both parents, you lead them to the dance and win the level. But it's not quite as easy as it seems, because enemies are constantly running at Marty. Now there are 3 types of these guys. The blue ones are the generic runners, the green ones jump, and the red ones carry items. And you can hop on all of them to take them out. However, the hit detection in this game is a bit odd. And the reason for this is because it feels like you have to hop on them a second before you actually do. Worse yet, sometimes the hit detection is very wonky. Like you jump on a guy and nail him, but the game says you got hit and you lose a life. It's fucking ridiculous! And in later levels, the game throws so many fucking enemies at you at once that it's very difficult to hit or avoid them. Speaking of difficulty, this is one of the game's biggest problems. It gets way too hard way too quickly. By the 4th level, everything in its fucking mother is coming to kill you. Biff with a gun, the cops or bullies or whatever the hell they are, and fucking lightning from clouds. What's next? The Libyans? Now you can get more lives after getting a certain number of points. Even so, the game becomes so difficult so quickly that you're probably going to lose them pretty fast. In my opinion, they should have made the difficulty level rise a bit more gradually. Another problem with the game are these shoes. From level 3 onward, you have to do high jumps to get to these upper windows because your parents are sometimes located there. So if you don't have the shoes, you can't make the jumps. And if you lose a life, you lose a pair of shoes. Run out of shoes and you gotta stand there like an asshole and kill a bunch of blue and green guys until a red one appears. Which means that you have to stock up on shoes in the earlier levels so you don't get stuck doing this shit. They really should have ditched this whole shoe angle because it's such a tedious fucking waste of time. Just let me kill a red guy and get the shoes and keep them for the whole fucking level. But no, we can't do that. There are 2 things I will give the game though. 1, it gives you more time than the NES version. Not to mention that you only have to collect clocks once in a while instead of every half a second. 2, the skateboard is much better. For one thing, you can actually stop. And it makes you temporarily invincible before it disappears. So at least that much can be said in the game's favor. Unfortunately, what really sinks this game is the repetitive gameplay. You do the same damn thing in nearly every level. Just kill enemies and get George and Lorraine to the dance. That's it. The background barely changes, the difficulty just gets higher. Now you can say this about a lot of early games, like say Super Mario Bros. But at least in that game, they gave you different challenges throughout the other levels. New enemies, new obstacles, bosses. Here though, the game barely does that. I did see a YouTube video of the whole game, and there is a difference in the last level. Along with getting Marty's parents to the dance, you also have to get Doc Brown to the clock tower. But that's it! Too bad they couldn't have put more different missions throughout the game, since it might have made it a little less repetitive. In total, the game has 9 rounds. But the game became so monotonous and difficult that after round 4 I just quit. Music-wise, the game has a decent rendition of Johnny B. Good. Here, listen. It's not great, but I'll take it any day over the NES music. On its own, this game isn't that good. When compared to the NES version, though, it is slightly better. So in conclusion, I'd only recommend this game as a curio. If you like the Back to the Future movie, play it. If not, skip it. This is Film and Stuff signing off. Thanks for watching. Everybody looks like they came from fucking Candyland.